Welcome to Season 10 of the Parenting Aces Podcast, part of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. I'm your host, Lisa Stone. And guess what? We have Todd Widom with us this week. It has been a minute since Todd's been on the podcast. In fact, we were just chatting offline and realized he hasn't been on at all this entire year of 2021. So it is about time to have him back, and we're going to have a great conversation. I think it's going to tie in very nicely to some of the conversations that are happening over on our Facebook group among the parents. So this is going to be a good one. Before I bring Todd on, though, just a quick reminder, if you haven't become a premium member of Parenting Aces yet and earn the right to complimentary quarterly consults with me, I sure would love for you to do that. I always love consulting with the parents out there and helping answer questions regarding your child's junior tennis journey and college recruiting issues or questions or just concerns that you may have. Also, while you're on our website joining, go ahead and hit that shopping tab and get some of our merch. We'd love for you to rock our logo when you're out at those tournaments and events. So without further ado, let me bring Todd Widom on. And for those of you listening on one of the apps, if you want to watch the video version of this, come on over to our website, ParentingAces.com. Todd, hey, nice to see you.
Hey, Lisa, how are you? It's been a while, actually.
I know. And I have to tell you, I think I told you this a couple weeks ago, but I was at an event that I was volunteering for here in Orange County, California. And this guy came up to me. I had my Parenting Aces hat on, and he's like, are you Lisa? And I was like, yeah. And he says, I listen to your podcast all the time. My favorites are the ones with Todd Widom. Do you know him? And I was like, yeah, I do. Yeah. But I mean, the reality is you and I still haven't ever met in person, but I feel like we know each other.
I keep trying to get you to come to Florida, but not yet, I guess. That's
I know. It is on me. Oh, well. So you've got so much going on down at You're Not an Academy in Florida. And one of the things that you've been doing recently is, and really since you started, is bringing pros in to play with some of your players. And I would love for you to talk about the most recent pro that's been training with you and what that situation is and how it impacts the juniors that are training with you.
Sure. So at the end of 2020, my assistant, Daniel Yoo, who I grew up training with and played with on the tour under Pierre Arnold, we were both trained by the same coach. He had an opportunity to bring in the top South Korean pro on the ATP tour, Soonwoo Kwon. And he asked me what I thought of that. And I thought it was a great idea to have him come in, join my system. This is the first ATP pro that has trained full time in my system. My business has been going for about 11 years now. So I thought it would be a tremendous opportunity to have that gentleman in my system and maybe I help Daniel with him if they need, or have the juniors jump in and do workouts with Sunwu, which has been tremendous for the kids. So I thought it was super exciting. And, I'm a little bit out of the pro arena. I retired back in many years ago.
Well, so why did Soonwoo leave South Korea? I mean, what made him want to come to the States to train and to work with Daniel stateside?
Sure. So basically he had stopped working with his coach, which was a gentleman that I actually competed against on the tour. And Daniel was on a Korean club league team with Sunwu. That was before Daniel started working for me. And he had known Sunwu since he was about 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
Coming to the United States, I think it was a nice change for Sunwu because, he's pretty well known in South Korea. So coming here was a quieter environment, getting out of the press, coming to train and get in shape and get ready for the 2021 season. So it's worked out quite well. He's had some great results this year, and Daniel has done a terrific job. Currently, they're preparing for Wimbledon right now in the UK. And I talked to Daniel through WhatsApp maybe not every day, but many times during the week. So, I love the guys. I've known Daniel since we were kids. We traveled on the tour together. We were trained by the same coach. So, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's a really cool situation, not just for Soonwoo and not just for Daniel and not just for you and Pierre, but I mean, let's talk about the kids that are training with you. And now all of a sudden there's a top ATP player on the courts, either right next to them or on the court with them.
Sure. So, it's been a tremendous experience, for the kids, not only some of the 16, 17-year-old boys, but you're talking about 10 and 12-year-olds that are right next to Sunwu, seeing the focus, the energy, the intensity. This is big time business. And this is a guy who is number one in his country and needs to do well. I mean, there's pressure on this guy. It's
Sure.
not, so that's something that's very different. So for the boys that were training with Sunwu, if you go back and if the parents want to look at my Instagram or my Facebook, you'll see these American boys that are about 16 or 17 years old, and they're going through workouts with Sunwu. And for the vast majority of them, this is the first time they've ever trained with a professional. And we're not talking about a player that's 500 or 1,000 in the world. We're talking about the upper echelon of pro tennis. So they were nervous. They weren't sure how it would go. They're asking me if they're good enough. Are they doing a good enough job? I mean, and I told them, I said, listen, this is a professional who needs to do well. If he doesn't do well, he doesn't have a job. So you have to do your job. And if it was your parents and if they were working and they had someone that wasn't doing their job in their arena, they'd be out. So
Yeah.
these, they had some pressure on them, but they did a great job. They were nervous in the beginning, but then they got used to the intensity and the pace and what was expected of them, and they did a good job.
So I mentioned in the intro that there have been some conversations going on our Parents Only Facebook group about different academies and the value of sending a kid to this academy or that academy and what the expectations are. And you and I have been chatting offline, kind of in conjunction with that conversation about managing expectations when you send your kid to one of the big academies out there, understanding what they're going to get in terms of the level of coaching, the level of competition, the level of attention, and, weighing that against coming to somewhere like your spot. And what do you call yourself? A tennis school, maybe? I don't know what you call yourself these days.
Yeah. So I consider what we're doing, we're structured as if you were going to send your child to a private school, an elite private school for academics. I've structured it for tennis, right? Okay. So we're taking on only serious kids. They go through a very tough, thorough assessment with Pierre before they come into the arena. We need to know exactly what they need to work on before they come in to train. It could be a child that's coming for a week, multiple weeks, maybe in and out of my system throughout the year, maybe full time. So It all depends. Everyone's case is different. But they're coming into a very serious arena, and they know it during that assessment. They know it, and then I get the report from Pierre.
Right. And one of the things that I pointed out in this conversation on Facebook was, it's fine if you want to send your kid to an IMG or an Everett or one of the big name academies, that's great, but you need to understand what you're signing up for. If the goal is for your child to be getting top-notch instruction and you're just going there for a week, for like maybe on a school break, or maybe the family's taking a vacation and you're new to that academy, the likelihood is that you are going to be with one of the newer coaches, not the name coach that, is heading up the tennis program. And you may or may not get a chance to hit with some of the top players that are training there. Because just like when Sunwu, I'm sorry, I messed up his name. Yeah. Sunwu is at your system. The expectation for the top kids at these name academies is that they're going to be getting top players to train with. They're not there to help, a beginning player learn how to play the game. That's not why they're on site there. Just like Soonwoo's not there to make your juniors better. However, that's a byproduct, right? For your juniors, they're getting the benefit. Sunwu just needs people that can stay on the court with him and return his ball and keep the ball in play and hit it where he needs it hit and those kinds of things. So managing those expectations is a big part of the process. And hey, there's nothing wrong with wanting bragging rights or wanting your kid to have the experience of going to one of these name academies. There's nothing wrong with that. Just understanding what you're going to get for the money that you're spending is really important. So if you're sending your child someplace for them to really improve and have the opportunity to be in an environment with top players who are training at a high level, with coaches who know what they're doing and working with these kids intensely, then they're better alternatives a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to what you're looking for, right? You know, when you're with masses of students, you're dealing with masses of students. Maybe some are serious, maybe some are not. Maybe some coaches are great, maybe some coaches are not. Who is going to guide your child each and every day? It doesn't matter if it's an hour, 2 hours, or my system is 5 hours with fitness and match play and the whole shebang. So it's who's going to put the hours into your child if you're serious and understand that their credentials and you figure it out.
So, I mean, the value to the juniors that are training with you right now of having Sunwu there when he's not playing Wimbledon or the French Open or
Right.
one of these other, little tournaments around the world, the value that these kids are getting is unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, talk about some of the feedback that you're getting from the juniors. Because I've shared stories of like when my son got to train with Mike Bryan one day and what that was like. And
right. I mean, I think they start to realize the intensity, the level of concentration that's needed. Maybe there's holes in their game that they need to clean up before they go to college. They get a real education about how they're going to be getting to higher levels of tennis. And then it's up to them to apply each and every day what they've been taught. And, just keep in mind, this is Soonwoo's job. So if one of the students is not doing their job, they're out.
Right.
And they knew this before they got on the court with Sunwu. I made it very clear because I grew up with professionals in my arena from when I was 6 years old. So this was nothing new. And I watched the intensity and their professionalism and what they were doing on a daily basis. I mean, for the viewers, understand that in the off season, about November, December, Sunwu was training 7 to 8 hours a day. And that's including double sessions of fitness, double sessions of tennis, recovery from his trainer that came from Korea. I mean, this is a very thorough day. This is not a joke.
Right.
And it's very good for these juniors to understand what professional tennis really is, because many people don't know. They watch professionals on TV and they see how terrific they are and they're playing great, but they don't really know what's going on a daily basis in training for them to play that well and for how long they've been training to try to get to that level.
Right. And when you say it's a job for Sunwu, I mean, it's not just about doing well in tournaments and earning prize money, but also as the top player in South Korea, he has sponsors. And those sponsor dollars are crucial to a professional athlete, and especially in our sport. And, if he's not performing, then the sponsors may or may not hang on.
Yeah, I mean it's the whole package. It's the winning, it's the scheduling of tournaments, it's the scheduling of practice, how you're going to structure practices, how you're going to schedule tournaments, what surfaces, where in the world you're going to play, what's your best chance of doing well, how are you doing are you winning? Are you losing on tour? Are you in a slump? Are you, hot and you're playing great and you want to keep going? All these things are managed by a very experienced individual. And right now that's Daniel Yoo. Plus there's a very top trainer that trained Hyung Chung, who, if you remember, made the semifinals of the Australian Open. I believe it was back in, I think, 2017 or 2018. That's the trainer that's been in my system with Soonwoo and Daniel every day. So if you want to really check out what these guys are doing, I've put clips of their physical training and the tennis. You may see me coming in and out of workouts, having fun with Soonwoo, as well as some of the American juniors as well. So it's been very fun, and it's been a great experience for everyone.
What are your junior players saying about the opportunity to hit with him? The ones that get to hit with him, and then the ones that are not ready yet, but maybe are hoping to get to hit with him.
Well, I mean, the reality is the reality. I mean, if you're not ready, and I can tell you a story, is that one of the 16 to 17-year-old boys, Sunwu, has the most amazing mentality. The work ethic is off the charts. I've never seen him get negative. He's always smiling. And you'll see this on the Instagram when I'm, pumping my fist in his face and we're having fun and we're competing and all those things. But one of the boys, Sunwu, said he doesn't hit the ball big enough. So you know what? You're out, right? And go get better. And so what happened was Sunwu went off on tour, and he came back in a month, and we tested that boy again, and he was doing a really good job. He was able to hit the ball big enough and maintain the workout with Sunwu. Beautiful. You've gotten better in a month. That's fantastic. So, some of the younger ones, it's more of an experience to, this is what this guy is doing. This is how professional he is. This is how focused he is on every single drill. He's running for every ball. He's not losing concentration. His stroke mechanics don't change. He's able to maintain a certain ball over and over and over again, like a real top professional. And that's what we expect from you. It's right next to you. Now duplicate it.
And so this boy that Sunwu said, he's not hitting the ball big enough. I need somebody else on court with me. What did you do with that kid in that month period to get him up to speed and ready to be on court with Sunwu again?
Well,
what were y'all working on?
Well, it was to get him to be a lot more aggressive from when he first started. It's actually a boy that we've spoken about that I want to come on the podcast with his father that grew up with some of the best players in the world. And it was a goal to make him a lot more aggressive. He needs to get stronger physically. He needs to get in better shape. And he needs to have the mentality and the belief in himself that he can rip the ball and understand how to rip the ball and maintain it over and over and over again. And after the month, he was able to do that. So you would see that boy in the clips, and he was ripping with Soonwoo and doing a good job. But in the beginning, it was a little tough for him.
But so, I mean, specifically, what were things that you were doing? Did he up his fitness program? Did he increase the amount of time he was on court? Did he change his equipment? I mean, give us some specifics of how you got that kid from the place where Sunwu was saying, to, okay, yeah, I'll hit with him.
Everything. So, a lot of kids, they play tentative, right? They just do. They're scared to miss. They want to so bad, right? They've maybe been taught, you got to make a lot of balls. Just make the extra ball, you're going to win.
Right.
That's not really a high level mentality, right? And, you're at a point where I call it being capped. You're not going to get better, right? Because if you have the mentality of just put the ball in and run, then how do you get better? So I was going through drills with this specific individual where he had to rip the ball and not miss, and bucket drills, and I'm monitoring every single day. For example, we started at 10 balls out of a bucket where it was corner to corner, and he's going around a cone with his footwork. So we're working on footwork. We're working on hitting a heavy ball. We're working on putting a ball on a specific spot on the court, right? And so we started with 10 in a row. When he was able to do 10 in a row with all the drills, I'm talking about forehand down the line, forehand cross court, backhand down the line, backhand cross court, side to side. I mean, you name it. I said, I don't care if it takes us 2 hours to do one drill. You are going to stay out here all day with me until this is accomplished. So he went from 10 in a row one day. And keep in mind that I told him, 1 week, the first week we'll do 10 in a row. The second week we'll do 12. Then we'll go to 14 and 16 and 18. But he started progressing so quickly, we just started going day by day. So it was 10, then it went to 12, then it went to 14, 16, 18. And he's like, Todd, you told me that we would, that we would only go in increments of 2 balls every week. And I said, sorry, I lied. So,
but I mean, the point is that this kid was committed to getting better, right? He wanted to be back on the court with Sunwu. So he was willing to put that work in, and he saw, because he couldn't keep up with Sunwu,
right,
that he knew where his shortfalls were, and he knew what he needed to do and what the expectation was if Sunwu was going to allow him to work out with him.
Yeah, I mean, this boy, busting it really hard for about 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
If people that want to know. And this was a crash course from a boy who was at a Division III college tennis level, and in 3 months has now an Ivy League level of tennis, which tremendous, right? That's pretty uncommon. And
so how did you keep him from getting hurt during that period? Because that's a lot of tennis balls to hit. And in a developing kid, the kid's body's still developing. I mean, he's a teenager. So how did you, manage his physical stuff to make sure that he didn't get hurt?
Sure. So I think what the viewers need to understand is that when techniques are clean, the chances of a youngster getting injured is much less, right? That's normal. So, we're tweaking techniques, not making major changes, but tweaking, working on getting a lot physically stronger. And I'm not talking about going to do bench press and squats in a gym. I'm talking about tennis specific drills, right? Whether it's fitness or tennis drills, so that individual can get a lot stronger, understand how to move on a court, understand how to hit a heavy ball, understand how they need to play, how they need to structure points, how they're going to be playing in college, because college tennis will be coming up in a year for this individual. So the whole package was put together, and I'm talking about the physical fitness to the recovery. I mean, it's a very thorough day. But this is a boy that is very determined to achieve what he wants to achieve. And so that's why he has progressed at such a rapid rate. It came from his mentality first, and then taking my information and bringing a certain standard every single day. And when he didn't, he heard from it, right? And so, but that's really how it works.
And so what about the younger kids that are there watching the 16, 17-year-olds hitting with Sunwu? What are they learning and taking away from that experience?
I think they're taking away the discipline and work ethic of what a high-level professional brings, and a certain standard that they bring every single day, right? You must know that you're not going to hit the ball great every day. We know that. But your concentration, your level of concentration, your standard, professionalism, work ethic, that should be very consistent every single day. And if you don't have that, it's going to be a roller coaster for that individual, right? And so, what I'm doing with this particular boy is that I'm bumping it up a little bit in increments, right? So that he's getting better and better and getting more confident each and every day, so that he believes in himself and will then bring it to the tournament, bring that belief and that self-assurance. And that's really what's happening. So, but I'm monitoring that training all day long.
But that trickles down to the younger kids too, right? Even though they're not on court with Sunwu, they're watching this boy they've been training with get better quickly because of the hard work and the commitment that he's willing to put into it, the hard work and commitment that you and Pierre are willing to put into it to help him get there. And so I'm just, kind of thinking out loud here, for the younger players to be exposed to that and to see the progression and how quickly the progression happens when you're willing to put that level of effort in, that level of focus in, has got to be just an incredible and valuable learning experience for these young ones.
Well, it comes from each individual. What are they bringing to the court each day, right? The mentality. When you look at the mentality of a Soonwoo Kwon, you know, I've known him now since November of 2020, and I've never seen him one time get negative. I've never seen him one time not run for a ball. I've never seen him one time complain. I've never seen him one time tank a point. I mean, I've never, you know, it's the mentality is so good that you know that player is going to get better.
But more importantly than you seeing those things, it's these young kids seeing that, right? And that rubbing off on them and understanding this is what it means to be a top level tennis player. It's not the fancy clothes or the fancy academy or playing, you know, the big tournaments, you know, across the country. It's putting in this work every day. That's what gets you there.
They're very consistent. That's the difference. It's just as if a surgeon is going to do surgery each and every day. If they're successful, they're very consistent at doing surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you're a lawyer, or maybe you're a businessman, whatever it is. If you're successful, where Sunwu is about 78 or 79 in the world right now, he's very consistent each and every day. That's the difference. It doesn't matter if you're a junior, a college player, or a professional. That's what you really look for. Can that individual sustain a certain standard each day, and can they continue to get better, and how are they going to continue to get better on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm. But it's the intensity too that, I mean, I've had, you know, the great opportunity to watch some of the pros practice as well. And the intensity that, I mean, the second they step foot on the court, you know, they may be joking around while they're unpacking their bag and lacing up their shoes and regripping the rackets or whatever. They're futzing around with their buddies, with their trainer, with their coaches. But the second they get on the court to start hitting, the laser focus just goes on autopilot, basically. I mean, it's unbelievable to watch that level of intensity, that level of focus, and they're not doing anything different than our 12-year-olds are doing. They're hitting forehands cross court down the line, backhands cross court down the line. They, you know, approach shots, volley, overhead. I mean, it's the same drills that we all know. There's no magic sauce here other than that level of intensity and commitment.
Right. Understand that, you know, I've watched Daniel train Sunwu. I've jumped into workouts. I've trained him as well when Daniel wanted me to help him. And we're not doing anything special, right? There's no magic pill. You know, I'm going through drills that I did my whole life from when I was a little kid and into pro tennis. They're just doing it at a different standard. They're doing it at a different level of concentration. They're doing it at a different level of intensity, different level of focus, concentration, like I said. And every ball has value. They don't check out mentally. Yeah. And physically, when they're tired, they push harder. That's the difference, right? And so that's what you really look at to see if a child has it between their ears to take it to higher levels of tennis. That's most important. You can take lessons all day long. You can take groups all day long. But if you don't have the mentality of what I just spoke about, you can spend as much money as you want. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It does not matter. It doesn't matter. I've told kids, I said, at this moment, it doesn't even matter if Roger Federer is training you until you get your mentality and your brain correct and focused and understanding what you need to do, then you can get better.
Yeah.
So then it doesn't matter.
And I mean, I think this is a really important message for parents to hear, is that if your kid isn't ready to work at that level, it does, like you said, it doesn't matter who the coach is. The child has to set the tone. Now, the coach has to support that, and the coach has to have expectations for the work ethic and the level of intensity during a practice session or during a lesson. But the onus is on the player, him or herself, to dig deep and find that level of focus and intensity and make the most out of those sessions if they want to achieve high levels in the sport. That's not to say that every kid has to do that. You know, there's so many levels of tennis and so many places kids and adults can play tennis and enjoy the sport without having to reach that upper echelon. But if your kid's goal is to reach that upper echelon, they need to bring it every single practice.
Yeah, and I think they need, both the parents and the student need to be educated in what it's going to take. Anybody could say, I'd love to play at the best colleges in the United States. I want to be a professional tennis player. But do you really understand what that means?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been trained like that? Have you been in an arena that has produced players, to that caliber, right? That's a whole different ballgame. Are you being trained by coaches that have those success stories and they put in those thousands of hours with specific individuals on a daily basis, right? And how old were those players? And what part in their development, has that coach trained those particular players? Because I can tell you, firsthand, it is a way different job training, say, a 12 or 14-year-old, or, in this case, we're speaking about a 16-year-old boy who's getting much better or is going to play Ivy League tennis. That's way different. It's apples and oranges compared to training a professional,
Mm-hmm.
a high-level professional.
Or compared to training an 8-year-old.
Yeah, it's not comparable. So when I hear parents, well, child is training and being trained by this person and they just got off the tour with Roger Federer or whatever, or Rafael Nadal, the first thing that I'm thinking is that is that person really, are they knowledgeable in training, a person like your child? I don't care that they trained an ATP or WTA professional. That's not what they're trained. They're getting ready to train your child. Do they understand how to develop that particular student?
Yeah. And these are all questions that, it's hard to ask, and it's hard to really effectively evaluate the answers sometimes, because there are coaches out there that are really great salespeople. I talk to parents about this all the time with college recruiting. The recruiters are out there to sell you on their school. So you have to really dig and ask the right questions to get the pertinent information to make the right decision. But same thing goes with junior coaches. There are some junior coaches out there that are really committed to developing players to their highest potential. And if you can find one of those coaches, that's gold. Yeah. But there are lots of other coaches out there that are just trying to make a living, and they really don't have the skills or the desire to put the work in to develop junior players to the highest level. They'll teach them some good strokes and they'll get them to a point where they can play, great league tennis or, have fun out on the tennis court. But in order to reach that highest level, the coach has to have that knowledge and commitment to excellence, just like the player does.
I agree. For a perfect example is that, and I've told students this, recently, is that in my system, Pierre Arnold was the gentleman in the academy. When I walked through the door in 1989, he was setting the foundations for all the youngsters. So I'm learning grip and swings and movements and all that at 6 years old. And he was the one that was setting the foundation for hundreds, if not 1,000. I mean, who knows how many students in South Florida that went on to become great college players and maybe some professionals and all of that. And the parents would come to Pierre and they used to ask him, is my child ready to move out from you and go on to higher levels and, higher level groups and everything? And he had to give the green light or the red light to say, your child is ready, or no, your child is not ready yet. Right. So I have him setting the foundations for my young students in my arena. And because why? Because he's been doing it for 38 years.
Yeah.
Right. That's why. So these kids are very blessed, and they're very lucky to have an individual that understands how to set the foundation so that those techniques and movements and concentration and discipline and how to place a ball and just all of these different things are set and solid, which is what a great foundational coach does.
Right. And I mean, excuse me, what's interesting to me about your system, Todd, you're not getting beginners down there working with you. You've got kids who are already, they've worked with coaches prior to coming to you. So Pierre oftentimes, and you, are having to undo some bad habits and help these kids relearn good habits with their grips, with their strokes, with their movement, with their mentality, with their tactics, with their, mental side of their game, their approach to competition, their recovery, all of these things that they may not have gotten a solid enough foundation prior to coming to you. And I don't know if you meant or set out to do this, but you've kind of become known as the place to come where when your kid is kind of maxed out with their current coach and they want to play college tennis, but they're just not there yet, and they need that tweak to get them to the next level, and you're providing that for a lot of kids.
Yeah, we in my system in these 11 years, we have not started one kid out, right? Keep that in mind, not one.
Yeah.
Almost all the students, my business started, right, just on my own as like a private guy in South Florida, was a 15 to 18-year-old student who the parents were frustrated and they were concerned that their child was not going to go to a great college. And so I had to take that particular individual and I assessed them, took a look at everything, and in my mind started figuring out what needed to be tweaked, fixed, developed, and the given amount of time that I was going to have with that student, and then send them off to a great college. So when you're doing those things and the students are 15 to 18 years old, they have habits that are really set.
Right.
Right. That's late in the ball game. Right.
And you don't have a lot of time to fix it.
Correct. Sometimes I had a year. My first student was a senior in high school.
Oh, wow.
Okay. A senior. So you have very little time.
Yeah.
Quick. Right. So, that's how my business started. Then, as you guys know, Ronnie Homan was the first young student to enter my arena. 12 on and off during his school breaks and 14 years old living with me full time. So, and then I started to get, phone calls of younger students. Now we have plenty of 10-year-olds that come in and out, and 12-year-olds, and, all the way going up into, 16 and 18-year-old kids, and maybe some college players during their breaks, and then Soonwoo is a pro, and all. So now we have a pretty nice variety of students. But I was the guy where it's like, that guy can fix your kid quick, and you've relocated to South Florida and things maybe aren't going so well, and he'll spend a lot of hours with your kid, grinding it with them all day long, and that's really how my business started.
And now, I mean, you do take kids in for a week at a time. They can come in during school breaks. And for those of you listening to this that, maybe you're new to Parenting Aces and you haven't heard any of our previous conversations, Todd and I have had quite a few over the years on this podcast and elsewhere. But, it's a very personalized approach to the tennis development. It's not... Todd calls it his system, but it's not a one-size-fits-all situation where you're sending your kid to learn tennis this way and this way only. No, Todd and Pierre evaluate these kids and they work with them and figure out the things that are going to work best for them and help them reach their potential in the best way, to suit their personality, their strengths, their weaknesses, etc. So I just want to encourage the listeners, if you're looking for a place for your kid to go work with a coach for a week and just kind of see what else is out there, consider sending them down to Todd. And Todd, give me your website. I'm going to flash it up on the screen here. It's
Sure. So it's www.twtennis.com.
Okay, so I'm going to just put that up on the screen. So those of you watching, you can go to twtennis.com and get more information on Todd's system. His not an academy. I always have to stop myself.
Really, going back to what you were just speaking about is that, I mean, and for the listeners, I do social media Monday through Friday, almost every night. You've seen at least.
One would think you're never on the tennis court training the kids. I mean,
I'm on the court a lot.
I know. I'm teasing you.
Court a lot. So anyway, that when I go and look at videos on social media and all that, I see kids, boys, girls, different body types, abilities, everything. And they're all being taught the same exact techniques, a cookie cutter approach.
Doesn't work.
I not agree with that at all.
Yeah.
You have to assess and understand, the player's mentality, their physicality, their grips, their swings, their athleticism, how they need to be playing so that they can go to a great college, if that's what their goal is, or maybe a pro career. There are no two tennis players in the world that are the same. So I can't understand why I see coaches that are teaching all the kids the same exact techniques, right? That doesn't work.
Right.
It just doesn't. The cookie cutter approach does not work. And so that's really one of the main reasons that any kid that enters my arena goes through a very thorough assessment with Pierre. I do some of them, but I really try to have Pierre do most of them. And he gives me the report. And because you have to understand how to motivate each player, what needs to be tweaked, maybe developed, maybe fixed, how they compete, so many different things that you look at so that you can really help that individual.
I haven't had you on the podcast this year, but I've had Craig Pettigrove, who sent his son Oliver down to work with you. Right. And, for those of you who missed that podcast with Craig, I urge you to go back and take a look. I'll have a link to that in the show notes as well. But, it's always interesting to me to talk to the parents of the kids who work with you. I've talked to Ronnie Homan's dad. I've talked to several of your parents that have come, the kids that have come down, and the message that continues to come out, the consistent message, is the level of personal attention that the kids are getting and how quickly they improve, because the expectation from you and Pierre and Daniel is that if you're here to get better. And so y'all make that happen.
Yeah. You know how I look at this is that if the parents are going to come here, whether they're coming for a week, multiple weeks, a month, maybe full time, maybe in and out of my system throughout the year, they're investing in us, and I'm investing in the coaches as well. Mm-hmm. Quality was always my number one goal, where usually making money is usually the number one goal. Right. Yeah. So for me, I believe that if you have quality, people will pay you well for your services. Mm-hmm. Right. And so the coaches that are training the players in my system are coaches that trained me. Right. So we kind of laugh about it, where I say, well, I used to work for you guys and now you guys are working for me. Yeah. Right. Or they are individuals that trained under me.
Right.
So it's really my little family. I haven't gone outside of it. And so I know these individuals inside and out that are with these kids. I don't have to look at them all day long to see if they're doing a great job. I know what they're looking at. They know what I'm looking at. And, I believe that, it's about the quality and who is going to be putting in the hours with that individual each day. So for kids that are visiting, they're going to see improvements after about 2 or 3 days, and they're in shock, right? Yeah. But, the standard of training needs to be high, and who's guiding it each and every day, to me, that's most important. That's where it starts.
Yeah. And I mean, let's just circle back to Soonwoo for a minute, as we're coming to the end of our time together. But the fact that Daniel felt comfortable bringing him in to your environment, and comfortable enough that the kids that you're working with would be able to handle the intensity of having a top pro there as well, and not be distracted by it, but rather be motivated by it, speaks very highly for what you're doing, right? I mean, and these kids are, I hope they understand how lucky they are to have the opportunity not only to watch a top ATP pro train, but to actually be on court with them. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tremendous experience for them. Daniel and I were brought up with Pierre, with really high level players around us and professionals. So for us, it's really, it's not to
It's
be
the norm.
cocky, but for us, it's kind of normal,
Yeah.
right? We were trained by individuals that were producing the best of the best amateurs in the country, not the world, or professionals. So we're used to that, right?
Yeah.
That's how we were brought up. We were brought up by some tremendous coaches. But for the kids, this is very educational for them,
Yeah.
right? Tell them for that. But then when they're on the court with someone who's doing something at a certain standard, each and every ball, each and every day, they very much understand what we're talking about.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. Well, keep up the great work down there, Todd. And I'm looking forward to getting Daniel and Sunwu hopefully on a future podcast, maybe after Wimbledon. We'll see, between Wimbledon and the US Open. I don't know. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll get them on. They'll be home training for the hard court season. The viewers can definitely watch the social media. I put plenty of clips of Sunwu and Daniel and myself and the juniors, practicing with him. Then he'll be training very hard here on the hard courts to get ready for all the U.S. Open Series events in the United States, and then into the U.S. Open. So they'll be back soon, and he'll be training again, and I'll be putting some clips up, and hopefully people enjoy that, and they'll see what it's all about.
Absolutely. So again, for those who want to get in touch with you, they can reach you through your website, www.twtennis.com. And Todd's all over Instagram. He's not so much on Twitter, but Facebook and Instagram, you can find him all the time. He's posting really cool videos and tips and drills and things like that. So make sure you're following him on those two channels. We'll have the links to those in the show notes as well. And Todd, thanks for doing the show. I can't believe it's June. Well, by the time this airs, I guess it'll be July, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure when it's going live, but I apologize for taking so long to get you on this year.
Yeah, no, it's been great, and I'm excited for when Daniel and Sunwu come back, because I want Daniel to come on this show and explain, what it's been like for him.
Yeah.
With Sunwu and the #1 South Korean player, and what they're doing and how they're preparing, and all the things that they do. How they study the matches to get him ready, and the recovery and the trainer and everything that I think that an up and coming serious tennis player should listen to, because it's very interesting stuff. And Daniel is doing a tremendous job. And as I always say, the results never lie.
That's it. Well, Todd Widom, thank you. To my listeners, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on Parenting Aces.